The BMW i4 is an incredibly capable electric sedan. If you're looking for an electric car that doesn't feel like an electric car, this is the way that you probably want to go. It's a BMW, so it's incredible from a performance and handling perspective. The cabin is incredibly quiet, and I absolutely love everything this car has to offer. And in this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know about the i4. Pricing for the i4 in Canada starts at around $58,200 versus $59,000 down in the US. And that's before you look at any sort of provincial, state, or federal incentives. The i4 is showing cheaper in Canada because that includes the available eDrive 35, which is the baby brother to the eDrive 40. So that's where that price discrepancy comes from. I'll touch on power in just a second, but the paint choice on this one is the available Cape York Green Metallic, which looks pretty sharp in my opinion. You're going to find the i4 either rear wheel or all-wheel drive. So it's the eDrive 35 and the eDrive 40, which are rear wheel, but then you get into the xDrive 40 or the M50, and that's when you're looking at the all-wheel drive setup. Now this is just the eDrive 40, which is the rear wheel drive model, and it hugs, oh, so nicely. When you get into the M50, that's when you get into the sport suspension system. And that's just a night and day difference. But this, ooh, coming out of that turn, is an absolute blast by itself. You're gonna find 18-inch wheels as a default in most trim levels of the i4. That's where you're gonna get the best possible range too, because as you start moving up tire sizes, changing things out, that's gonna negatively impact the range. It's not by much, so if you want a wheel style that speaks more to you, there are a lot of different options available. I love the way that BMW's done this with that painted blue caliper. Oh, I love that look. The front end style of the i4 is sharp. From what I've seen, the 24s to the 25s, the big difference is the grille profile is different in the 25 along with the lamps. So the headlights are a little bit shorter in comparison to the 24s. There are LED headlamps inside of the ride that look incredibly sharp later on at night. Inside of the i4, there are 4 different power variations you're going to find. So there's the eDrive 35, there's this one, which is the eDrive 40, there's the xDrive, which is all-wheel drive, so xDrive 40, and then there's the M50. If you want the best possible performance, the M50 is the way to go. I think the xDrive 40 is probably the sweet spot. But inside of this one, so the eDrive 40, you're looking at 335 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque, which is going to be more than enough power for the majority of people. So let's hop into sport mode here. Get back up to highway speed in 3, 2, and I love it. 100. That pulls so nicely. Oh, I absolutely love that. And this isn't even the most powerful version. It's strictly rear-wheel drive. You get into the dual motor all-wheel drive setup or the M50, it's a night and day difference. Underneath the hood of the i4, there's no frunk space available in this car whatsoever. BMW's just opted to go for this giant winged cover to cover off all of those electric components. You do have access to the one thing that you really need to worry about though, and that's being able to top up your wiper fluid along the left-hand side. And then looking at the warranty inside of the BMW world, the basic and powertrain are going to be the exact same. So it's a 4-year warranty, and then it's going to be 50,000 mile, 80,000 kilometer, with the EV components getting bumped up to 8 years, 100,000 mile, 160,000 K. So you are covered off there, obviously with the option of increasing your warranty at time of purchase if you need that extra peace of mind. Charging for the i4 is done just along the passenger side. It's got support for level 1, level 2, and for level 3 DC supercharging. With the DC supercharge rates going to depend on which version of the vehicle that you're in, because there are 2 different battery options that you're going to find inside of this ride. The eDrive 35 is a 70.2 kilowatt hour battery versus in the rest of the lineup, it's 83.9 kilowatt hour. With the max charging rate coming in at 205 kilowatt. So if you're level 3 charging, it's going to charge up pretty damn quick. Looking at the charge times in range in the winter time, it's going to take about 20% longer to charge up, and your range at minimum is negatively impacted 20%, depending on where you live. Because Ontario, we get some minus 30 Celsius days. That's going to affect it a little bit. But you get to somewhere like Winnipeg or Alberta, where you're minus 40 or 50, range is going to be affected a bit more there. And the total range that you get is going to depend on if you're rear wheel versus all-wheel drive. Inside of the eDrive 35, maximum range is 428 kilometers. Inside of this eDrive 40, maximum range is going to be 512 kilometers or 318 miles. When you get to the xDrive, that lowers down to 462 kilometers or 287 miles. And then the available M50 comes in at 430 kilometers or 267 miles. So the overall range that you get inside of this sedan is pretty good. It's going to be affected based off of how much cargo or gear you might have in the car. On top of that, it's going to be affected based off of your driving habits. Because if you're the type of person where the light goes green and you gun it, you're going to be using a lot more power in comparison to somebody that granny drives it. But you got to have fun, especially when you get into that xDrive 40 or the M50. The added power that you get is amazing. And looking at the size of the i4, so it is a sedan. I'm 6 feet tall and I am towering over this car. But one of the nice things is because it's lower profile, it handles so incredibly well. Getting inside, first row, easy enough. Love that startup sound. And then the second, equally as easy. And one nice thing is that you are going to find assist handles across the second row doors if you need them. The i4 has a little walk-away lock feature. So as long as the fob's on you, start walking away. You can see there, it's automatically going to lock the doors. Power folding side view mirrors are there with integrated turn signals, the blind spot monitoring system, and they're auto dimming. So if some donkey's got their high beams on later on at night, it's going to automatically dim these out for you. You've got intelligent access. You can tap there to lock the doors. Hopping inside. Oh, we'll get there in a second. You're going to find your basics like your galvanized controls here. I love the metallic highlight here. They feel so good. But your basic controls, unlock and lock, all of your window controls with your seat memory, and then a release for the trunk, like that little scuff plate. You've got your basic pedals, regular carpeted mats. Honestly, I recommend going for thermoplastic rubber trays. So rubberized trays either from BMW directly or aftermarket through WeatherTech. The seats here look great, but they feel fantastic. Multi-way adjustable with multi-way lumbar support available there too. And, spacing wise here. So hold on, let's get the seat as far down as it's gonna go. Okay. Then up overhead, I've got 3.5-ish inches of headspace. So I'm 6 feet tall, which means that 6'3", maybe 6'4", you should be okay inside of this ride. The seat, incredibly comfortable. And then start up. Looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the BMW i4. In this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know about the steering wheel buttons and the cluster. But if you want to walk through on the infotainment system, you'll find that down in the description of this video. Starting off, the steering wheel inside of the ride is going to be heated as an option. If yours is heated, on the left side of the infotainment system, there's a button there that you can tap in order to toggle on your heated steering wheel. So just a single level there. You can also use the voice command prompt in order to toggle it on or off if you'd like to. The steering wheel is going to be manual telescoping. In the middle of the column, there's a release. You're gonna go in and out, up and down to find that perfect position for you. Once you find it, click it in order to lock it back into place. There's also the option for driver seat memory and side view mirror memory. So all you're gonna do is set up your side view mirrors the way that you'd like to, set up your driver seat the way that you'd like to. Once you do, you're going to hit set in either 1 or 2 for it to remember your own personal profile. Very useful if there are multiple people driving the vehicle. But let's go through all the different buttons and stocks and things like that. So starting off with the one on the left-hand side, it's going to be for your blinkers. Pretty simple. There are 2 different buttons on the tip of the stick too, so you can tap it once in order to go to your different values, and that's going to be for your trip counter. You can push and hold that button in order to be able to circle it out, or zero it out essentially. There's a button on the bottom of that one, and that's going to be for your high beam mode. So there's the option for auto high beams inside of the ride. So down by your left knee, you've got a series of other switches. So you can toggle your lights off completely if you'd like to. You can put yourself into an auto mode, which I recommend you're going to be in the majority of the time. So when you're in the auto mode, you can't permanently lock your high beams out. You can flash them, no problem. It's just that at nighttime, push away, nothing happens. When you've got that auto mode enabled, what's going to happen is if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it's going to turn them off before turning them right back on again. Well, it's pretty simple there. But if you're in the daytime, or maybe you just want to lock your high beams out permanently, by your left knee, you're going to hit the headlamp mode. When you do that, you're then going to push away to turn them on, pull towards you in order to turn them off. You can use this little dial in order to increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen, and then you can use these to turn on the outside lights if you'd like to, so your parking lights. Stock along the right-hand side is going to be for your wipers. So you've got your different wiper speeds. If you go up one level, that's going to be your intermittent level. You could then use the rocker in the middle in order to figure out how fast or slow rain's hitting the windshield, or go into one of those crazy modes. And then you're just going to pull towards you in order to get that wiper fluid going. Nice and simple. And then putting yourself into gear, you could push up to go into reverse, lightly drop down to go into neutral, and then all the way down in order to put yourself into drive, back into park again. You could toggle your traction control system on or off. You can toggle the beeping that you get on or off. And then there are 3 unique drive modes with the flexibility of being able to customize it. But I like when you're in that sport mode, it just changes up the look of it that tiny little bit. There's an auto hold setting available. What that one's going to do is if you've got auto hold enabled, you're in drive, you take your foot off the brake, the car is not going to move. So you could toggle that on off if you'd like to. There's also your parking brake. Then, so many different buttons that are available. So this one doesn't have the available advanced safety driving package. That is going to give you adaptive cruise control and a lot of other useful features. If you're the type of person where you're driving on highways or interstates fairly frequently, I actually would recommend look at that available option, because otherwise you're just going to have traditional cruise, but the adaptive cruise gives you stop and go capability. So let's say if you set your speed, so you can toggle the cruise control system on this way. Once it's set, it sets you at your current speed. You could then push up or down to increase, decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. If you do a little bit of a lighter push and hold up or push and hold down, that's going to increase 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour faster, or you can do a click up or click down in order to increase you 10 kilometers an hour at a time or 5 miles per hour. You can hit the brake to cancel your speed, you can hit the cancel button to cancel your speed, and then you can hit resume to resume your previously set speed. But that's for traditional cruise. Adaptive would have a gap adjustment. So you'd be able to essentially set it, let's say at 80, you're on the highway just cruising. Car in front of you slows down with adaptive cruise, yours will brake. They change lanes, you change lanes, it'll pick you back up to your set speed again. I am a big fan of that adaptive cruise system because not only is it adaptive cruise in the BMW world, you've got a lane keeping system, a lane following system, and then there's also going to be steering assist available too. Like I said, this one doesn't have it. I highly recommend getting that one package. If anything else, get that one. There's also another one, which is your speed limiter. Where that comes into play is if you've got a lead foot, it is very easy to speed inside of electric cars. So you could set your limiter to whatever you'd like there. So we're on a 40 road there, so I can set it at 40. So what that means is as I go to accelerate, when I'm about to hit 40, it makes it a little bit challenging to actually get up to 40, and then it locks you in a place at 40. You can hit the accelerator pedal if you wanted to speed past that point, but it gets pretty challenging to do. And you can also set up the option inside of the infotainment system to get a notification when you're speeding. I'm not a fan of that system, but it's neat that you can turn it on. Once, like if you're brand new to the EV world, that can be useful, like I said, if you've got a lead foot. Then you've got buttons along the right-hand side, so you could easily adjust your media volume this way. There's a switch down the center there if you wanted to adjust your volume that way. You could push that button into mute if you'd like to. Then you've got a little scroll wheel in the middle, and that's to move between different screens there. I'll touch on that one as we get inside. You can answer or hang up on a phone call. You can hit this to move between a few different views, and then there's also the voice command prompt. So you'll be able to do things like change songs, radio stations, control your climate open up the sunroof. There are so many things that you can do using the voice command prompt inside of your ride here. There's a screen inside of the infotainment system that you can jump to that shows off all of the available options. But I recommend getting used to some of these prompts because it is really neat what you can do using your voice. Now, on top of that, if you've got a phone connected, you do a long button push and hold on that assistant. That's going to bring up your Google or your Siri assistant or give you the flexibility of easily adding in a phone if you'd like to. Then inside of the cluster screen, you've got your gauges along the outside there. If you've got different light modes enabled, disabled, etc., you'll see different options there. High beams on, off, etc. You've got your current battery percentage along the bottom right side. So battery percentage versus your kilometers or miles till empty. Inside of the infotainment system, if you tap on this icon, so your apps icon, make sure you're in all apps, and then you could go to, there we go, system settings, date and time. You can adjust your language, but we're looking for measurement units. So you'd have the flexibility of being able to change this out. For your consumption, do you want to be in either kilometers per kilowatt, etc., miles, etc.? You can change up your distance too. So do you want to be in miles or kilometers this way? So you can kind of see it adjust everything as you move it out. That's one of the benefits of it being a fully digital cluster. So it's not only changing up the speed there, it's changing up your current range and everything else that you absolutely need inside of this ride. You can adjust out. Do you want your power to be in horsepower, kilowatt? How do you want your torque measured, your tire pressure, things like that? You've got your current time, your road speed, depending on the number of people in the vehicle, whether or not their seatbelts are plugged in, and then whatever gear you're currently in the very middle there. You've got your outside temperature, your current vehicle speed, and then you've also got your speedometer to the left. To the right side, you've got two individual gauges. So I want you to think of the outside gauge, or the upper gauge, I should say, as your traditional, I'd say, tachometer to a degree. So what's going to happen there is as you put your foot down, this gauge is going to go up, showing you the amount of power. If you're in sport mode, that is going to use a heck of a lot more power in comparison to the eco or the comfort mode. So you've got your power gauge there that you're using, and then the bottom part of that gauge is the regenerative braking option. So as you take your foot off the accelerator pedal, the vehicle starts slowing down. You'll notice that this gauge starts to drop a little bit. If you kind of hammer the brake a bit more, you're capturing more of that charge, so that's going to drop down even more. It's a pretty simple screen once you actually get the hang of it. And then you can use your little buttons here and then this one in the middle to adjust out what's going on here. So we'll start off with going left versus right. So you could change between stations if you'd like to. If you push the middle scroll wheel, that's essentially an OK button, but it also brings up this screen. So you can jump between all of your available presets. If you hit the left arrow, that then gives you the flexibility of jumping between AM, FM, SiriusXM, or it's essentially all of your available media. If your phone is connected, that would show up. If you had a USB stick with MP3s on it, that would show up there too. Then you can easily move between any of the available sources. Once you do, you've got all of the available stations. But if you're back again, if you've set up presets through the infotainment system, that's going to show up here. So a mix of AM, FM, SiriusXM, etc. Back again. And then the other one to point out is the one in the very middle. So if you tap that, that's going to give you the option of jumping between different views. So you've got just your basic content view. It's essentially going to be your economy that you've gotten, your basic content there. So you've got a little compass view. Down one more level is a map in cluster view too. So hold on, let's go ahead and, actually, why don't we do this? Navigate to Tim Hortons.
I have found multiple results for Tim Hortons.
Just going to select a random one there, and look at that. So you've got your mapping cluster view that's available there too. Love it. And then if we scroll back, so if we go back to this one, so you can see there, you can kind of see your little like directions there, but your mapping cluster view is the way to go for sure. And one really cool thing, through Apple devices, there's the option for enhanced integration. When you've got that setting enabled, your phone maps would show up right inside of the cluster screen there too. I love it. Moving down, you've got your available G meter, and then you've got your audio that's playing. This is the infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the BMW i4 and a few other BMW vehicles, but it is a feature-packed infotainment system. You've got your home screen here, and then you've also got the flexibility of moving up and down between different subscreens. So if you wanted a different widget along the outside, you'd have the flexibility of adjusting that out as necessary. Useful. You can search for addresses for factory navigation. You can look for charge options, change up your heading. We'll get to actually using the maps in a second. Along the very top, you can tap here to see if there are notifications that were available. Your current traffic information. Clicking on different audio sources. You can adjust your radio, and then you've also got your date and time setting, and then there's this little square in the middle, and that's going to be your different profile options. One of the big benefits of having multiple options set up is that if you've got different people inside of your vehicle, they've searched for addresses, maybe you've got your preset set up, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto's there, things like that, you'd be able to set it up for each individual profile, just depending on the number of people that are driving. You've got your climate control settings that are baked right into the screen, so you can easily adjust it this way. You've got some hot button pushes to get to some different options along the bottom, your phone, etc. Now, you're also going to notice me either touching the screen to move through, but then you might see me jump into different screens or different options without actually touching the screen. Because yeah, it's a touch screen here, but down the center stack there, you've also got all of the different options along the right-hand side. So you've got a button push to get to your media, home, map, phone, navigation. There's a basic back button there, and then you've also got a little rotary dial, so you can move that in order to be able to zoom in and out on the map. When you're on different screens, you'd also be able to move up and down too, in order to move between different options. So let's go ahead and I'll kind of dive line by line and show you everything that you need to know. So along the very bottom there, you've got your available media, Spotify, presets, SiriusXM, radio, etc. If you had a USB stick with MP3s on there, you'd also be able to listen to audio that way. You can change out your different audio sources, Spotify, presets, podcasts, things like that. If we hop into, let's say, FM radio, you've got all of your available stations, and you'll see some of them are duplicated a few times because some stations broadcast digitally, so using HD radio data, and that's going to show all of the information up along the top there. So if that's available, that would show up. You can save any station as a preset. All you're going to do to tune to whatever station, just tap Save Preset, and that saves it in as a preset. You can tune to stations this way, kind of using this manual dial if you'd like to, which is kind of neat. You can adjust some sound settings, but you can also change stations a few different ways. So if we are back in our audio there, or even if you're not, tap the voice command prompt on the steering wheel. 94.9 FM.
Okay, I've set the frequency 94.9.
Boom. And you can see there, you can adjust out to a different station that way. And then you saw there, so it's a mix, AM, FM, SiriusXM. You can save it as a different station if you'd like to. You can see some related content. Tap in the middle in order to be able to see a full screen view. You can see favorites, you can browse, so if you wanted to go based off of a category view, you'd have that flexibility. On your audio screen there, you've got your sound settings, and sound settings gives you a boatload of different options. You can adjust your treble, mid-range, bass, etc. One thing that I'd recommend, so something like this, your treble kind of down, maybe up a point, your bass cranked a few points, you can adjust out your balance, fade, you want it front, rear focused, etc. You can adjust it this way. You can kind of fine tune it this way if you'd like to on top of that. So I do recommend playing with these. So play one of your favorite songs, and while it's playing, adjust these until it sounds perfect for your ears. You can look at some advanced settings there too, so your master volume, and then you can adjust out volume for individual options there too. You can reset everything, so if you essentially want to just bring everything back to the default there and then adjust it out based off of your own personal comfort level. Simple. But that's using media inside of the ride. Next up is going to be using factory navigation. So this is the main nav screen. You can tap that nav screen there in order to get to a full screen view. Easily move across. You've got full pinch to zoom capabilities. You can search for addresses, tapping there to go to a home address if it's set up. You can tap here to see different charging stations that were available, so it'll take a second to load up. You can see all the different charging stations, and then whether it's level 1, level 2, and whether or not that station's actually available. Pretty simple. And then in order to be able to go to any of these places, you just go, start guidance, more information, see what else is nearby. But let's just go ahead, start guidance. You can see there, we've got our guidance route that's available there. If you wanted to take a different route, you can easily select it. You can tap this in order to see different options that were available. So recent destinations, tap again in order to see future destinations, where you can set home or work for your address. So if you hit the voice command prompt, you'd be able to say, navigate home, navigate to work, etc. And it's going to navigate based off of the addresses that you have set up there. Back in order to mute out, you can mute out notifications if you'd like, or hit some advanced options. you can look at different charging options, so charging route, where it's going to automatically add in charge stations based off of the current route that you're taking. There's different things you can exclude if you'd like along the way, different things for route criteria. Do you want to use highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that? Carpool lanes, do you want to avoid them? Yay, nay. Do you want the map to automatically zoom in or out as you get closer to that next part of the route that you're taking? Different options for guidance. Do you want to see 3D options there? You can adjust the volume there if you'd like.
Turn left and then turn left.
You've got some configuration options that are available there too. Do you want your maps to update automatically, etc.? Demo mode there too. Now from here you could search for another address or destination. So maybe you wanted to grab a coffee while you're waiting for, there we go, while you're waiting for your car to charge up. So let's go ahead and let's just choose a random one there. Start guidance, or you can add it in as a stop. So start guidance means that it would overwrite the existing route, or you can add it in as a stop if you'd like to. And you've got the options here. So we're going to stop at the Tim Hortons and then we're going to go charge up. You can hit this in order to drag it around. So maybe you wanted to charge up first, back down this way, and then just start guidance. If there were additional routes that were available, you could look at any of the available options and then just tap in order to start. Simple. You could look at alternative routes, routes manager, things like that, or exit out in order to cancel the route out completely. If you tap search here, you can see the addresses that you've previously saved. Push and hold is going to let you show details. You can delete the individual entry. You can delete all of your search history too. So if you wanted to delete all, you can see there, it's gotten rid of all of the addresses that you've searched for. That's how you use factory navigation inside of the ride. Next up, you've got climate control settings here too. So climate control settings are baked right into the screen. You could look at individual settings, driver versus passenger side, and then second row. You could lock out the rear climate control so people in the second row can't use climate. So if they're fighting, let's see here, you could set the temperature, lock it out, etc. Preconditioning is available here too. So you can start it now, or you can set up a departure plan. So if you know that maybe it's just a one-off, or tomorrow you want to wake up nice and early in order to have the vehicle nice and toasty for you, you can set that up. If you leave the same time, let's say Monday to Friday, you'd have the flexibility of setting up a departure time. So what you're doing is you're essentially preconditioning the cabin to be nice and cool, nice and warm, whatever the case may be, based off of different schedules. So you can set up multiple schedules if you'd like. So if you know you're leaving from home, 8:15 Monday to Friday, you're leaving from work, same idea, Monday to Friday at a certain time, you'd have the flexibility of doing it, and then you can toggle these on or off if you'd like to. One of the big benefits of preconditioning is that if you're plugged in, that means that you're not wasting battery or juice unnecessarily. So the cabin's going to be cool or it's going to be hot based off of your personal preferences, based off of this cycle. And that's the basics of climate. Now, one neat thing, so the climate controls are baked into the screen. You can tap the voice command prompt. Increase fan speed by 1.
Increased by 1 level in the front.
So you could adjust your fan speed that way if you'd like to. You could adjust this way. Do you want your air conditioning going? Do you want it going to your windshield face feet? Some sort of Frankenstein combination. You can adjust this out slightly different. So if you want your passenger side face and feet, etc. You can toggle it off. Next up, if you hit this button, that's every app that's available inside of the vehicle. So your IDs, things like that. We'll go line by line in a second there. You can see just infotainment options, vehicle options, recently used. So let's go all apps. You've got your BMW ID, personal assistance available there too. So if you wanted to see different command options that you could do, different questions, answers, etc., it is a very, very useful system. So what I'd recommend is when you get your BMW, jump inside here and see everything that you can do, because yeah, all the controls are inside of the infotainment system, but you can control almost everything using your voice. Open or close the sunroof if you'd like to. You can adjust the display if you'd like, so toggle the display off. Live vehicle options, what's your tire pressure like, things like that. All controlled using your voice. From there, you've got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. So actually on that note, let's go ahead and we'll add in a phone, starting off on the iPhone side of things. What we're going to do, let's actually tap the phone option there and connect a new phone. And on your phone there, oh, perfect, there we go. We've got the iPhone 14. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want a little contacts and messages to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm saying no. If it was yours, you could say yes there. And you can stop here. So you can use just Bluetooth if you wanted to make phone calls or stream audio, but you've also got wireless Apple CarPlay. You can have it listen for Hey Siri or long button push in order to get your Siri assistant to go. But let's go ahead and hit continue. And then on my phone, it's saying, do you want to use CarPlay with this BMW? Let's go ahead. Boom, look at that. And we are fully connected. For CarPlay, you've got your current time, connection, and battery level. And then these are the apps that were last opened. So you've got your last open map, audio application, miscellaneous. You can tap there in order to go to this home screen. Tap again to get to the icon view and easily swipe across. Inside of CarPlay, you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze. But the downside is that CarPlay, it doesn't support pinch to zoom capabilities inside of any map application. That's one thing that I would like to see changed, but you've at least got the option of dragging around. I am personally a bigger fan of using Waze because as you start to drive, if there are speed traps set up, if there are accidents on the highway, things like that, people are really good at marking that type of stuff off. And you can mark things off. So if you notice that there's a speed trap, crashes, hazards, things like that, you can give other drivers a heads up. You've got Flow and ChargePoint, which are charging apps. You've got podcasts that are available, audiobooks and things like that. So there is a lot of flexibility here. You can tap settings in order to be able to adjust things. Do you want it driving focused? Maybe you're not a fan of the default wallpaper. Maybe you've got a color scheme that works better for you, that maybe speaks to you a little bit more. You have the flexibility of adjusting it out if you'd like to. Then you've also got the option of adjusting these icons out a tiny little bit. But before we get there, if you tap the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, so a light button push is going to be the assistant for the vehicle. But if you take that same button and do a long push and hold, that is going to bring up your Siri assistant. So short button push is the assistant for the infotainment system. Long push is for Siri. Let's see if you can't even get to this step because CarPlay is not even connecting. Check down in the description of this video. I've put together a little walkthrough explaining how you can do some typical CarPlay fixes if it's giving you a problem. The home screen for CarPlay is kind of customizable. You'll always have the map that was open last in the middle. Along the outside, there'll always be the search box and then whatever audio application you were last listening to. If you have a calendar notification coming up today, that would show up. If there was no notification coming up today that hasn't passed, the search box and the audio box would be stretched along the top there. Now, in order to be able to customize the icon tray here, what you're going to do, go into your settings, general, and then CarPlay. Just find your vehicle. You've got enhanced integration. There's the option of customizing though. So let's say if you're not a fan of the app icon layout, you're just going to grab the hamburger icon along the outside, move it to the top. Same idea. Move it around. So you can adjust out the icon layout there if you'd like to, removing apps that you know you're never going to use. If you've played around with the icon layout too much and you don't like what you've done, along the top right side of the phone, there's a reset option. So you'd have reset, reset, and that's just going to bring you back to that default icon layout. Then one thing you might have noticed here is the option for enhanced integration. So if you toggle enhanced integration on, what that's going to let you do, let's get Waze going and let's find a random route. Choose Whitby here. But when you've got enhanced integration activated and you've got navigation going, inside of the cluster screen, if you tap the button in the bottom there now, move down into your content there, so your map view, you've got Waze showing up with your turn-by-turn directions there. I love it. So that's strictly going to be available when you've got that enhanced integration option activated. But if you didn't, it would just be factory navigation inside of the cluster screen. But that's pretty neat. In order to get back home, you can tap the home icon along the very bottom. You can tap back in here in order to get back into CarPlay. You can also tap the CarPlay icon along the very bottom to do it that way instead. Pretty easy. If you go into your mobile devices, you can see here I'm currently connected to the iPhone for CarPlay. But if you wanted to disconnect from CarPlay, strictly be hooked up for phone calls, you'd have the flexibility of being able to do that. So it's disconnecting CarPlay over Wi-Fi and setting up over Bluetooth instead. But that's how you set up Apple devices inside of this ride. Setting up Android devices is pretty simple. If you weren't on this screen, so let's say you're back on the home screen, you're just tapping the app icon, mobile devices, and then connect a new device. And then you've got available devices there. On the phone, same idea. We're just looking for BMW. Let's look for the device here. pin numbers do not match up. That's a first. So what happens if we do that? Let's hit OK. All right, well, we're connecting, which is great. And so you can stop here. You can use Bluetooth if you want, so just streaming audio and then making phone calls, but you can also use Android Auto. So let's go ahead, use Android Auto. That. Then on the screen, do you want to allow access to contacts and messages? This is not my car, but welcome to Android Auto. Just click continue, and a few seconds in, look at that. We are fully connected. On Android Auto, you've got your current time, connection, and battery level. You've got your map option there, so tapping in to get you to a little split screen, or tap again in order to get to your full screen maps, which is pretty nice. You've got some basic apps along the outside. You've got your voice assistant that way too. Same idea, so you can do a light tap on the steering wheel to get the assistant for the vehicle, or a long button push and hold in order to bring up your phone assistant. You can tap here in order to get to this little icon tray on top of that. Let's say if you've got Waze installed on your Android device, but it's not showing up there, check down in the description of this video. I put together a little walkthrough explaining how you can add Waze into Android devices if it's not showing up. But the system here is simple. Tap there, as I mentioned, to go full screen. You've got full pinch to zoom capabilities available on the Android side of things, which is great. And we've also got all of the different charge points. It's like the vehicle or the phone is recognized that we're currently in an EV, and it's shown all of those options there too. Then you've got the option of customizing the icon layout here a tiny little bit. So on your phone, if you search for Android Auto, go into Android Auto settings, you've got all of the available options. Click on Customize Launcher. Anything with a little checkbox next to it, you can either add it in or remove it from the screen. And then you can just do a drag and drop in order to be able to adjust out the icon layout if you'd like to. It's not dynamic, so for these changes to come into effect, tap this button along the very bottom, go to your mobile devices. All you're going to do is disconnect from Android Auto. So we're just going to click off there, disconnecting. Let's reconnect to Android Auto. Hop into the icon tray, and you can see there, the changes that we've made have now come into effect. So it's not dynamic, but you can still adjust out the icon layout if you'd like. Tapping the button there again, let's go back to mobile devices. And you've got both phones that have been connected. So you can either be hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both of them simultaneously, but you could do a mix and match. So let's say if, I don't know, let's disconnect Android Auto there. Maybe you want to have one phone connected for phone calls and another phone connected for media. So you can kind of do a mix and match this way. So after that loads up. So if we wanted to, we're now using the Samsung device for phone calls and the iPhone for media. So you can kind of do a mix and match that way if you'd like to. Clicking back in, you could then disconnect or fully remove the device. Same idea. Reconnect to Android Auto, select which options you'd like there. Device settings gives you some different options, different ringtone options, etc. But you can also easily remove the device and look at that, set to go. But that's how you set up Android and iPhone devices inside of this ride. If you tap on settings, that's going to let you change out the Bluetooth name. So if you don't want it to be the default BMW 7639 or whatever your BMW is, you'd have the flexibility of adjusting it out to whatever you'd like. You can also toggle Bluetooth off, which means that Bluetooth wouldn't work for any devices inside of the ride. I just recommend keeping that one enabled, but it's a matter of preference there. But that's how you set up devices inside of the BMW i4. From here, let's see. So we've got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. There's connected drive store where you'd be able to purchase additional apps if you'd like to. Not a fan of that one, but you could if you'd like. Charging options now too. You've got your charging mode available, so you can charge immediately. So you plug in and it'll just start charging, or you can set a time slot. So once we set a departure option there, so let's just select one of these randomly and hop back, you've now got a time slot. So where this comes into play is maybe you only want to charge up at certain times. So if you know you're going to get cheap electricity rates from 7 p.m. until 8 a.m., you'd have that flexibility. So it's only going to charge up during those windows, or just charge up whenever you'd like to. You can set your departure plans, which we've seen earlier. So you can set up multiple departure options based off of the date and time that you tend to leave. You can adjust your charging limit too. So I recommend if you're just a regular wall plug at home, you're probably okay with like anywhere between 6 and 12 amps, just depending on the type of outlet that you've got, but you can also max it out. Where this comes into play, let's say if you're using a public charger and you're plugged in but it's not charging, it could be that there's something wrong with the charge cable itself. So what I'd recommend is playing with your charge limit in order to be able to adjust out the amperage that it's pulling in. So one of the big benefits there is that if the charge station's not working at something like, let's say 48, you set it at 16 and it'll work, but it'll also slow down the amount of charge that the vehicle can accept. You could set a current charging target. Where that comes into play, like what I normally recommend, keep yourself in like the 80 to 85-ish% range, unless you're going on a distance drive using the vehicle tomorrow. Because doing something like that is going to give you the best possible life that you can out of the battery. But again, if you're going to be going tomorrow or within the next day or so, a longer distance trip, charge yourself up to 100. You can unlock the charge cable. There's preconditioning, plug and charge, nothing exciting. How loud do you want the fan to be? And then you've got location-based charge settings on top of that. So do you want different settings available based off of where you're currently plugged in? It's pretty simple using this. Climate control options jumps us back to the climate screen there. Digital keys available, you can adjust out the display. So looking at the cluster screen, you can configure the content. Do you want to show your route preview, the G meter, media, radio, things like that? So if you didn't want certain things to show up, so as we go into, let's see, we've got our different screens. So you've got the G meter screen available there. If you didn't want these types of things to show up, you could deselect it. And that just like fully pulls it out. Do you want turn-by-turn directions to show? Yay, nay. Do you want converted speed? Yes or no? So if you're going cross-border, you can see both speed options that are available there. For your display, you can turn off the display if you'd like to. So one second there. Button push to bring it back to life. You can also adjust the brightness there if you'd like, with some different system settings. We'll get to that one last. And back. Doors and windows, you can lock, unlock. When do you want the doors to automatically unlock? When you go to lock the vehicle, do you want to get any sort of notifications or feedback? Do you want the mirrors to fold in automatically? Do you want the doors to automatically unlock when you shift into park? Basic comfort options. Do you want the doors to automatically lock or unlock? So as you approach the vehicle or walk away. There's a digital key, some basics here for the tailgate. And then automated window too. So automated window gives you the flexibility of setting up when the windows are going to automatically open or close just based off of where you're currently located. I'm not a fan of using that setting. You could, but let's hop outside and I'll show you how a few of these ones work. Opening up the trunk. Just push and hold in order to open. There is a foot activated option here too. You can use your foot in order to be able to open or swipe in order to close. And then through the fob, there's also an auto lock feature. So hold on, watch this. Walk away with the fob on you. The doors are automatically going to lock. And then there's one key fob trick that you can do, and that's rolling the windows up and down. So go ahead and push the unlock button twice. You're just gonna go 1, 2, and hold. Windows go down. You can release it to pause it, push and hold again in order to continue the process. So it's all 4 windows, and look at this. It's also opening up the sunroof. Same idea, you release in order to pause. Push and hold the lock button, and it's gonna reverse the process. So up the windows go, it's gonna close that sunroof there too. That's pretty neat. I love that the Globo window up and down is exactly that, up and down. Great. You've got some driving settings that are available, and these are basic. So this one doesn't have the advanced safety package. There's blind spot detection there too. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it's gonna highlight right there in order to let you know that somebody's entered the blind spot on either side. You can get a speed warning if you're going a little bit too fast. Not a fan of that one again, but you could toggle it on off. Simple. Different options for parking, cross traffic alert. So as you go to back up, pull forward, if there's an obstacle coming next to you from the left or the right side, it's gonna let you know of a potential collision. You can adjust the volume there. Your parking guidelines are there too. So as you go back, you've got a series of different guidelines, and I love the way that BMW has done this. So as you go to rotate the wheel, you can see what's going on, your different parking angles, things like that. The front sensing system, the rear sensors are there. But one neat thing is it's almost got like an AR element to it. So if you get closer to obstacles, it's going to let you know using this pretty neat view on the screen there. I love the way that BMW has done that, but you can get rid of those guidelines if you really don't like them. options for driving, speed limit assistant. Some of these will look slightly different depending on which packages you've added on. And then you've got a vibration. So let's say if there's something going on inside of the vehicle. So whether that's a safety system, you're pulling forward, backwards a little bit too much. If you're veering over into another lane without signaling, it's going to give you a steering wheel vibration. Almost like you're running over rumble pavement or there's something wrong with your alignment. There's not, it's just that you might be entering another lane without signaling or there's something going on. So the vehicle is just trying to give you a heads up that there's something happening with one of the safety systems. You can adjust out your drivetrain chassis, so there are different modes that are available here. The sounds are kind of neat, but you've got the option of adjusting out different modes. So down the middle, you've got your drive mode selector, so you can move between either a sport mode, there's comfort, or there's an available eco mode. But you've got the option of adjusting out these modes to kind of be unique for you. So with your sport mode here, sport steering, it stiffens things up. Feels really good. You can change out your drivetrain responsiveness too. You can do the same thing when you're in your eco mode. So when you're in your eco mode, what climate control settings and options do you want to have enabled? Yay, nay. So you've got, again, 3 different options there. What I'm going to recommend on highways or interstates, if you're just cruising, go to your Eco Pro. If you're just kind of doing day-to-day driving, city driving, etc., you might want to be in comfort. If you want the best possible performance inside of the ride, go for the sport mode. It is a heck of a lot of fun. I personally am a big fan of driving in that sport mode, but that comes down to a matter of preference. You can adjust out some charge settings. So you'll see a few of these things you can get to on different screens. There's options for exterior lighting with your turn signal. Do you want to have just a single turn or 3 at a time there? Now, BMW drivers, sometimes they don't use them at all, but at least it's there. You can go 1 or 3. Welcome and goodbye. Pathway lighting, when you go to lock the vehicle, how long do the outside lamps stay on for? So you can go 10 seconds at a minimum up to, 240 seconds at a maximum. So depending on how far your vehicle is away from, or your driveway is from your front door. You've got your radio there, interior lighting, there's ambient light. You can toggle it off completely, but you can also adjust it out to whatever color you'd like to. And it's very subtle inside of this ride. I absolutely love it. You can adjust the brightness, you can reduce it for nighttime driving. There's dynamic light, so it's going to look slightly different just based off of what's going on. So you get like different effects. It's kind of neat. Live vehicle lets you see everything that's going on with the vehicle. You can see if the battery temperature is okay, if service is needed. You can see your trip data information. So do you want to have all of your trip options? You can reset your individual counter there if you'd like to. There's different content available here too. It's kind of neat. Oh, I love that. And it's even in the color of this BMW too. I love it. Oh, simple, but neat, all at the same time. And from here, if there are messages available inside of your phone, if it was connected, you can see your mobile devices, which we've already set those up. Navigation, hopping back into your nav screen. You can look at podcasts. There's an owner's manual. So if this video doesn't help out, you're getting weird messages in the cluster, you can see different options that are available. There is a personal hotspot available. You do need to have a data plan for the vehicle, but rather than connecting or using your phone's data, you'd be able to connect your phones to your vehicle and use that as a mobile hotspot. You can look at all of your presets, which we've already seen this. Back, there are seat comfort options too. So along the side there, all you're going to do is adjust the seat the way that you'd like. Once you do, just tap set, and then 1 or 2 for it to remember your own personal profile. There are climate control options. You've also got options for setting your seat up perfectly. SiriusXM there, Spotify. There are a boatload of system settings that are available here too. So you can adjust out the date and time, and these things are grayed out because you're in the auto mode. So if you toggle that off, you'd then be able to lock into a different time zone. Where that comes into play is, let's say if you live somewhere where you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one to the other, you can lock it in to any of the options. You can adjust your date and time. Do you prefer to be in that military time? I prefer just the auto mode, but matter of preference on that. That's the same thing. So date and time gets grayed out when you're in that auto mode. Got some different language options available. Options for voice control too, so it can listen for Siri. You've got your BMW assistant. Do you want to get suggestions, notifications, voice output? You know, these are all pretty simple. You can have it listen for a wake word if you'd like to. So rather than hitting the voice command prompt, you could say, "Hello, BMW." And then that's going to activate the voice assistant. You've got time options for your trip data. Do you want to have it for individual settings since the factory, so since it's been reset essentially, or as of different options, so charging options, recenter it out. There are some sound settings, which we've already seen, so adjusting your treble, mid-range, and bass. Do you want to get sounds for the touch screen, the touchpad settings, so your different settings down there. Do you want to have character input, map inputs? You can get pop-ups. There's nothing overly exciting in some of these things. That's why I'm kind of just glossing over them. Valet parking is optional there too. You can lock in a pin. And one of the big benefits there with that set up and with it activated, a valet driver wouldn't be able to look through all of your different settings. So useful. You can use that if you're bringing your vehicle in for service, if you're leaving it with a valet driver, just from a safety perspective. Rear occupant alert, you go to turn the vehicle off. It's going to tell you to check the back seats. Let's see, do not disturb wireless charging with mobile phone reminder. If you've got a phone on the wireless charge pad, turn the vehicle off, go to leave, it'll give you a heads up that there's a phone there. You can reset all the vehicle data there too for the infotainment system. So if you're selling your vehicle, fully resets everything. There's a way to do a soft reboot. I'll show you towards the end of this infotainment walkthrough. And there, you've got your phone that you can connect to, your vehicle status, which we've already seen, weather, and then service information. So that is a heck of a lot of info. Underneath the screen, you've got a volume rocker, so you can adjust your audio this way, do it on the steering wheel, change between songs or stations that way, or songs or stations this way. There's a max defroster, front defroster, with your four-way blinkers. You're going to find a wireless charge pad, a USB Type-A data transfer port, so if you wanted to plug in a USB stick with MP3s, that's where you're going. There's a 12-volt port with some cup holders. You could toggle traction control on/off, the park sensing system, so that beeping that you get as you get closer to obstacles. Auto hold's available there too. So with the auto hold setting turned on, if you're in drive, you come down to a complete stop, take your foot off the gas, or the brake I should say, and the vehicle is not going to move. You've got your parking brake there too. And then if the infotainment system's giving you problems, like let's say Apple CarPlay is not working, Android Auto's not working, or it's just glitching out on you, you can do a full factory reset, but like I said, it's going to get rid of everything. So your best bet is to take this little volume button in the very middle, and you're just going to push and hold it and just keep on hanging on. And what we're doing is entering a soft reboot cycle. It's very similar to you doing a reset on your phone. So we're essentially clearing the cache. After about 20 seconds or so, it takes a long time, it's going to fully reset the screen for you. So very similar to doing a reset on your phone. You can see there, screen goes blank. After about 30 seconds or so, you'll see it cycle back on. But that should solve the majority of issues that you're facing. So like I said, CarPlay's not working, Android Auto's not working, navigation's glitching out, you're getting some sort of weird problems or bugs inside of the infotainment system. That's what you're gonna do in order to be able to fix it. If that doesn't work, do a full factory reset. If that doesn't work, you'll have to bring it into for service at your BMW dealership. Armrest here is a decent amount of space with a USB Type-C charge port. So that one's strictly for charging, that one's for data transfer. Glove box here is fully lockable, and there's a solid amount of space inside that box. The rear view mirror here is auto dimming. You've got your SOS mode, and then controls for a little sunroof. That's not full panoramic, but still, that's nice. Oh, it just opens things up so nicely. Yeah, so that single button press opens it up all the way. What do you think? Do you normally drive around with the roof open, sunroof open, the shade, etc.? I like keeping that open, especially on overcast days like today. From there, you've got a little light, so vanity mirror with light built in. You hit that sweet spot in order for that light to come on. And this little feller, oh, it stretches out. It's going to block the majority of the sun. That should block just about everything hitting your face. But I do think that BMW has done a great job here. I love the infotainment system. Steering wheel buttons, the cluster, the feel of the steering wheel there, I think is fantastic. The pillars there. Yeah, get a little bit from that pillar. A little bit of view blocking, but not bad by any stretch. Okay, let's go. One thing I don't like about this, watch this. Open up the door, car turns off. I would like to see it turn, like stay on when you've got that door open, but it's probably the one complaint I think I have about this car. Second row, you've got the same galvanized controls with some door storage down low. And then space-wise, in the second row here, okay, so with the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall, I've got a good amount of knee space, foot space. Head space though, it's a little tight. So sitting fully upright, my head's touching. So from a safety perspective, I wouldn't be comfortable sitting in the second row. If I were to slouch a little bit, I can just kind of fit. But yeah, sitting fully upright, no dice. And if it's hard on the outboard seats, the middle seat, it's got a hump. There is a 0% chance I'm fitting in that middle seat. It's unfortunate, but I mean, I can fit back here. So if I needed to, it could happen, but just wouldn't be comfortable. But if you've got kids, anchor points are there. Top tethers are in behind. You've got some basic climate controls there too. So tri-zone climate, so different for the driver, passenger, and then for the second row seats. You can lock out the climate settings for the second row seats inside of the infotainment system. You've got 2 USB Type-C charge ports down there. And then outside of that, passenger side has a little handle and a hook. You've got some overhead light controls there too. And then similar setup along the side, so a little handle and a hook. But outside of that, you've got some cup holders built right into the seat. And then I mentioned there, you could fold down that middle seat independently if you needed to. I really like the rear end styling of the i4. I absolutely love the tail lamp design that you're gonna find. Nice and subtle, all of the badges throughout. So the badges in the back, badges in the front, all have this electric blue to them. Looks really solid. Technology-wise back here, you're gonna find the reverse park sensing system along with a backup camera. And getting into the trunk can be done a few different ways. There's a button along the driver's side door. You can use the key fob to do it. Just underneath the BMW logo, there's also a button there that you can push. Then there's also the option for a hands-free liftgate. So as long as you've got the key fob on you, it's kind of this sweet spot. You're just gonna pass your foot on the back. Useful feature in my opinion. You can see there's a little cargo shield along the top. Another little one in the back there that you can pull out. And then from a feature perspective, there's not really much. Along the right-hand side, you're going to find a little light and then a little storage cubby. And that's the same thing off to the left. So a little light and a storage cubby. Lifting up the little storage tray in the back, this one has the charge cable that you're gonna find from the factory. 20-foot cable. And one nice thing is that it's got support for level 1 and for level 2. Love that. You can easily remove the tips in order to swap them out too. So if you wanted to go one way or the other. The brick itself is going to be weather rated. So if it's snowing, raining, whatever the case may be, it's okay. You just don't want to submerge it underwater. But you can charge up no problem if it's raining outside. And then one thing you're not going to find inside of the ride is going to be a spare tire. But what you will find is an inflator kit. So if you ever puncture a tire, you can try to seal it yourself because the goop is there, but you also do have access to roadside assistance if you need it. Folding down the second row seats can be done from the trunk area if you can reach it. You can also do it from the second row. And one neat thing is that you've got the flexibility of being able to lower down the middle seat by itself. If you can reach it from the back, you're just going to grab and push. One thing is that you might need to move the driver's seat, passenger seat forwards a little bit, just depending on how far forward or backwards they are in order for the second row seat to actually fold down. But you've got a surprisingly good amount of cargo space inside of this ride. The cargo measurements that you're looking at, the ones specifically behind the first row, they go from right where that trunk door would close to just in behind the little armrest between the first row seats. So if the driver's seat, passenger seat were forwards or backwards, you'd gain or lose a little bit of extra space, but it's fairly spacious back here. All right, onward handling here. Oh, that's nice. No complaints there. No complaints at all. And then looking at highway driving, so that's one thing where you typically hear a boatload of road noise. BMW has done such an incredible job. The cabin inside of the i4 is incredibly quiet. Like there's a teeny bit of road noise that I can hear coming in. But outside of that little bit, just from the window, I can tell right up here along the seam. But outside of that, like that teeny little bit, it is incredibly quiet inside of this ride. Wow. It pulls so nicely. Oh, I love this. And that's one thing that I've noticed about this is that it's an electric, but it feels like just a regular car. I think that's why this car has won Car of the Year 2 years, because it is such an incredible sedan. Yeah, no complaints. No complaints at all. And let's try a little bit of handling here. Oh. Oh, that's good. Do a little 180. Okay, here we go. Yeah. It cuts and handles so nicely. Ah, BMW. I like this. Yeah, I can see why people love these cars. And that was everything you needed to know about the BMW i4. You can find all of the build details for this BMW down in the description, along with links off to BMW Canada and US. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it if you think others might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care. I mean, hides all of the components that you're looking at for the EV side of things, but I think the salt... You're not going to find any frunk space in this car whatsoever. BMW's... Charging for the i4 is done along the passenger side. Oh, helps if you open it up on the right side, doofus. Like, why isn't it opening? Charging for the i4 is done just along the passenger side.